Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10th episode of our CSGO podcast, 808s and Beefake. I'm Jack,
I'm Tom.
and I'd like to apologize to the audience because I just lied. This isn't the 10th episode of our CSGO podcast, 808s and Beefake. This is the first episode of our Monster Hunter World podcast, The Life of Diablos.
Yeah, the life of Diablos.
Listen, I was agonizing over what fucking pun to go with because it had
Yeah,
to be Kanye related, and it also had to be Monster Hunter related. So like I was messing around with like my beautiful dark twisted Rathalos, but that didn't sound as good. And then like the other day I just thought the life of Diablos. Perfect.
yeah, I can see you there with the whiteboard out and all that shit, trying to crack it.
Like what are the Kanye albums? What are the monsters? Gotta mix and match here, fit them in. But yeah, basically like since we've been on player break, like nothing's really happened. Like players haven't even been streaming. They've been on vacation. So like we've just been playing fucking so much Monster Hunter. Oh God. I'd
It's
take
been,
it's game of the year. I don't care.
dude, it's been legitimately 2 weeks of like, or a few weeks now of Monster Hunter, as well as like each week we'd be like, we should do a podcast, and then be like, what about? And be like, yeah, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, like not much has happened. Like I wanted to do a podcast last week, but still nothing had happened. And I think we finally reached a quota of like the French stuff happened, and we were like, this is probably enough to do a podcast, right? We haven't done one in like almost a month.
Tier 2 Counter Strike finally did enough bullshit to constitute a full show.
Yeah, big ups to tier two.
Yeah, thanks, boys.
You've been out here grinding. We've been out here grinding for gems, baby.
Good
But
luck.
but yeah, let's get into it.
Speaking of gems,
Yeah, speaking of gems, French gem NBK and French not as much of a gem Happy, they're making a new team. Apparently, it's rumored that NBK, Happy, Apex, RPK, and Zywoo are going to sign to are in talks to sign with Team Vitality after the major.
yeah, it's an age-old tale that the French, as emo as they can be, they will bury their hatchets when they really got to do that. Like this, they're because when I looked across at like that top G2 team, you always looked at the rest of the scene and thought like, man, you could really make a fucking good team. And this is without Kiyashima, this is without Scream, this is without like, listen, I'm still holding out for XMS here, boys. But
I don't know if
this
that's
is
gonna
without
happen,
like a
man.
fair few players. Yeah, I don't think it's happening. But though I'd like to see him go somewhere. But anyway, back to like I don't know. I quite like this roster. I think weirdly enough, we seem to never get the top French team do this, where they go, "What is the best five we can get out of what we've got?" Whereas these guys seem to legitimately have gone, "Who are the best five we can get?" Considering that like Davidovic and Armanek seem to have just dropped off the face of the earth after being really fucking good in that North American team, I guess
Misfits,
this is
right?
probably the best five, right?
Um, I mean, I guess like the biggest question mark for this team for me is obviously Happy. Like yeah, sure, Zywoo hasn't played a LAN in a long time, but like I was really surprised that MBK and Happy decided to play together again, considering that MBK looked fucking done with Happy, and you probably could have gotten someone else from the scene to like fill his spot too. Because again, there's like so many players in the French scene that you can pick up that are really talented. Like why would you go back to Happy is my question.
Yeah, because for me, I guess because I think you could have RPK take up a lot of those happy roles, and there are still some players out there. I don't think he's ready yet, but that player Jax, who just signed to fucking 3D Max, he's really quality. Like I hope to see more of him in the future, and I think he'll probably be a part of the next shuffle, assuming he continues on that current trajectory. But to go back to Happy, like I think the bright light here for Happy is when the reports are saying that MBK is going to be the in-game leader, because to me that says that Happy is willing to retool himself and kind of swallow his pride a little bit, like he kind of hasn't in the past. Like he's gone, like he and I mean his teams in part as well have just gotten so emo that they've just bombed out of events before and just stopped like trying to win. So this guy, after like what, how long's it been, 3 years of him not really having to compromise whatsoever, he's finally, it finally looks like he's going to take a step back.
It's honestly more than that because in 2014 when
Yeah,
he was with LDLC, I don't think he was compromising much with that system, especially since it was working.
yeah, that's true. I think after he made like the Rockstar LDLC team, like I don't think he ever did anything he didn't want to do, like in any facet of his life,
Oh
from
yeah,
that
like
point till now.
especially like since he won two majors, like he's a made fucking man. Like he like Happy has an all-time resume. It's just that like he's basically burned almost every bridge in the French scene at this point, and I'm really surprised that he got this shot. Like I'm I really think like if you would have told me that the envious team that he finally left, like if you would have told me that was his last shot at top CS, I would have believed you. Like I'm really surprised that he got this shot here.
I assume that I haven't actually really looked around, but I assume the scene's reacting a bit negatively because I think overall a lot of these guys, first of all because they have short memories, and second of all because they all started watching the game like fucking probably like a month before Cloud9 won their major. They don't realize how fucking good Happy was. They don't realize that when he won that first major, he was the best player on that team. And part of that was because he built the team around him, but you still have to be fucking good to win a major with the team built around you. Like I'm really hoping that he can get back to that, because like you're saying, yeah, he's fucking made. He's got his legacy. Like he's honestly, for all the hate he gets, he's a fucking huge baller. Like he he's just fucked around and won two majors after looking like he got absolutely shredded in that first French shuffle, where he lost several of his really, really fucking good players.
It's crazy that like I couldn't I like when you say the words baller and Happy, I don't associate them because he's such a weird dude.
He
Like
just
we
doesn't
talk
give a fuck about anything.
yeah,
That's what I love about.
like
He's like the low keyest baller ever.
he's like here's the thing. Like Oscar is a weird dude. Like I think Oscar like took the weird dude mantle from Happy because before
Yeah.
then like it was kind of just Happy's like oh yeah he's this weird like outcast guy. Like he was the guy who went even harder in on the four spies. Like even after like the pistols got nerfed. Like I'd say like he probably went in harder after they got nerfed into force buying. Like than when they were in their prime. Like
I think it's
he just has a really like weird vision of the game, and he's totally uncompromising in it.
yeah, I kind of respect to some degree that he never stopped buying. And it's just he never like changed who he was. Like they would win huge events and he would be standing up there just like looking like he was just bored out of his fucking mind, like whilst their coaches like spraying champagne all over them. Like, you seen that clip where they're up on the stage with Envious and Kiyoshima's celebrating and he looks at him, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't, he's so out of place. Though yeah, Oscar kind of took his mantle. Like I don't think I don't think Happy can top that Oscar moment where he's just streaming and then like some fucking something out of a Disney film, like this little like fucking canary flies across and lands on his hand. Like I think about that shit a lot when I'm watching him play.
uh, and it's
But sorry, go on.
no, oh man, it's just Happy's one of the. It's a real shame that people like the newer people in the scene like don't know all the stories about Happy. It's a real
Yeah,
fucking shame.
stories about him, and just even just watching him play, he's one of the most incredible lurk players of all time. Like I think teams change the way they play because of Happy. Like I think he really played his part in defining a meta that's still around today. Like the fact the way he would the way he would create pressure on the map by doing stuff and then not even necessarily being there, but you're always afraid of him coming in and flanking you is really scary. And I think you can kind of see that whenever he plays against a lesser team now. Like if he plays a lot of tier 2 teams or tier 3 teams, he has really fucking good games because they don't know how to deal with it. Whereas I think the tier 1 teams are like, it's like we've been fucking dealing with this cunt for like 3-4 fucking years. We know we know when to check behind us. Whereas like he's ground them down into being these paranoid motherfuckers that can finally counter him almost. But no, I love Happy. Like he's one of my probably all-time favorite players. I really hope he does turn it around, honestly. All of these guys, to be honest. Like it's time we've really got this French scene kickstarted again. And I mean,
Yeah,
look, here, worst case scenario, we all get to look forward to a really sick team that they form with the G2 players in like 6 months, if this all falls apart.
man, we've been saying that about like, man, when if this doesn't work out, they'll just form another nuts team. But we've been saying
Yeah.
that for like 2 years. Okay, like
Listen, dude.
they haven't been in major contention like in over 2 years. It's been fucking dark times for the French scene.
Listen, dude. Let's just say like existence has got Shocks and Kenny. Like Happy and MBK are playing together. MBK said he's willing to play with existence again. Like he would be his preferred in-game leader if not himself, dude. Like cats are kissing dogs, dude. Like it's like shit's ready. It's gonna happen. Like we're closer than ever. We're but 6 months away.
Dude, like to anyone like listening to this in 6 months when none of this happens, you're listening to the ravings of madmen here. Just put a great assault on that.
But to go on the positive side of this team, we do get to see if Ziwu can realize this incredible hype behind this guy.
Yeah, we
Because
definitely we definitely buried the lead on that one because he's the biggest like lightning rod player in this team.
yeah, because I think because we both got like came up around or started getting really into it around 2014. Really into competitive CS. That's when like we just get super excited about Happy maybe being back. But I think Ziwu is the one that the community is super hype on because this guy, we've seen him on LAN and we've seen him put up some big numbers against solid teams, but it's really exciting the prospect of seeing him playing LAN against tier 1 or 2 teams because God bless them, French teams have always been, actually I'll say that envious team since G2 was sort of the best French team for a fair while. This envious team has always been like surprisingly good at qualifying for LANs considering the personnel. So I assume this team is going to make a few lands, and I mean they'll get invited as well because people want to see this team play, and like tournament organizers know that. But yeah, I think probably that's probably the main talking point on this team is that Ziwu's finally gonna get his chance.
Yeah, because we've been waiting for Ziwu to finally get on a team for like a year plus because he's always said that I'm not joining a team until I finish school. And
Yeah.
I guess clock's ticking.
Like that's like I guess that's a testament to how fucking good he is. Like I think I said on a previous podcast essentially like no one's a sure thing, but if there is a sure thing, it's this guy in terms of talents that are completely unproven because he looks fucking incredible and like he might be an onliner for various reasons, but I'd I'd be pretty positive on this guy. And I think Vitaly should be fucking super happy if they get him locked into a contract because there's a big ass buyout coming your way if things don't go well.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is like Ziwu's gonna op on in this team obviously, right? Like
Yeah,
if that's the case, like what team's gonna pick him up other than like G2 if they kick Kenny? And like, can you fucking imagine them kicking Kenny? Because like that's hard for me to imagine.
I don't even, dude. Honestly, Ziwu can rifle. Like, Ziwu can rifle in secondary AWP. Like, he's unbelievable. Because I think he's own. I'm trying to fucking remember the stats because his rifle kill stats are really fucking high as well. Like he's just an all around like genuinely fantastic player.
Like yeah, I've seen rifle clips of Ziwu, but like the op clips are even better. So
Yeah, but I think as well. I'm kind of glad it's not a Happy led team, because I don't think Happy's the kind of guy who will nurture young talents very well. Whereas I think someone like MBK, someone like Existence, those two, like those are the two kind of in-game leaders that I'd want to have him early on.
Yeah, like that's a big positive. Like Z, like we have more talented players than Happy on this team, like Ziwu, arguably Apex, and Happy's just like, no, I need to bait you guys.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they have like Happy's like, and they must have had a very long conversation with Happy and like all these players if this is going to get, and this isn't the final five, so maybe it's not a done deal, but I think a lot of like it is that thing I'm talking about where they all just want to bury the hatchet and finally get back to winning again, because it's been so long since a French team was like anywhere near being a consistent contender.
And like this they have a really good team makeup in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like as long as Happy's willing to like take a more supportive role, they've got a really like stable player in RPK. They have a great entry player in Apex, and then they have the potential superstar op in Ziwu.
Yeah, I think it's about how these guys are willing to sort of put their egos aside, and how Ziwu sort of develops. But yeah, there's potentially a shitload of firepower on this team. And you have, of course, like I don't think you can really go wrong with MBK in a team. Like I feel like you could add him to almost any team and they would get better. So
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's shift gears to I'd say probably like one of the first big superstar like coaching moves in terms of like big names, because out of nowhere, MIBR have added the analyst Janko to be their coach. I was really surprised when this move happened. I wasn't surprised that MIBR got a coach because I knew they were gonna have to get one eventually. But like getting Janko to quit the analyst desk and become a coach, that was really surprising to me.
I think I'm not surprised to see Janko go to coaching, and I'm not surprised to see MIBR pick up a coach. Maybe the two coming together is a bit odd, but I mean, a lot of the kind of talent guys have talked about how fucking grueling this shit is. Because the way this scene works is there's lands on fairly regularly, and you're flying all over the world and all that shit. But the problem that a lot of them have is that if you don't say yes to most of these lands, you're going to get replaced. Like they're gonna start being like, oh, we can bring in this guy and he's less acclaimed and he's less esteemed, and so he's cheaper. And oh, because it's literally any new person, the community love them for the most part. So they just start hiring that guy, and you've lost your place. Which I guess that point also links into that this is like a kind of a risk for Janko, because if this doesn't work, like he's not going to be able to get back on desks most likely, or he's going to have to grind really hard to get back to where he is now in terms of desk status.
Which would suck because like Janko's the best analyst that the scene's ever had.
Oh yeah, in terms of pure breaking down rounds, he's fantastic.
Let's kind of talk about how he fits in MIBR though, because I've got I've got a lot of questions to ask. Like this reminds me of a move that happened in the NFL recently where John Gruden, a guy who'd been a coach before, mind you, had been in the broadcast booth for 10 years, and he just now got a job with one of the teams that he used to coach, the Raiders. And well, for starters, like that team's going to be a dumpster fire because the man hasn't coached in 10 years. But like it's going to be really strange to see how Yanko go transitions from being a guy who breaks down rounds to like probably he's obviously going to do that a little bit, but he's also going to have to like motivate a team of veterans, major winners. Like everyone on this roster's won a major.
Yeah, like I I don't know, man. Like I think so. The reality is my vision of Counter Strike doesn't particularly like. I don't think it lines up with this super well. Like to use a football term, like European football. Like I think Yanker is a lot more direct than like the way I see it. Not saying that either's right or wrong, but in I do think that he's got a fantastic mind for the game, and I think I don't know how to say it. He's got that charisma and he's got that ability that makes me think he would be a very good coach. I don't think he's going to succeed though. Like, I think he's a great coach and he's got a shitload of talent, but I just don't think he's going to make this team what they want, because I think the idea of this team is they want to be like #1 contenders, and I don't think he can get them there,
Yeah,
because I don't think anyone can get them there.
yeah, like the roster is just fundamentally flawed. And I'm afraid that I'm afraid that MIBR and the organization is gonna like cut Janko first before they cut any of the players and make any personnel changes.
Yeah, because there was like some weird things recently where Fallen was saying that they didn't want to coach, or they didn't need a coach and all that shit. But like apparently then Janko said that they've been chasing him since June, and there's all this other fucking bullshit. And like I wouldn't be surprised if they pursued, because I don't think Janko was their first choice. I assume they probably went for Zeus and then probably Janko second. But I think Zeus is like definitely bought into that Liquid project, which makes a lot more sense.
And they're also a
But yeah,
better team, so
yeah, it's also probably a more interesting project to work on, to be honest, because you got. But anyway, whatever. But yeah, I just think you just come back to this point we always make, where you don't quite have the roles. You have a lot of like really, really exciting playmakers on this team, but you don't have, like, they never replaced, and they never got anyone who could do those Taka roles well. Like Tarek and Stewie can kind of do them, but they're not born and bred support players or role players or whatever you want to call them, you know?
yeah, like there's too much there really is too much aggression on this team. There's not enough stability here. Cold Zero is the only real stable force. Like Fallen
Yeah.
Streaky is an opper, Fur's like a really aggressive entry player, and then you obviously have like Tarek and Stewie who are the kings of content. Like the memes is that they fucking push through smokes and shit. Like, come on. You're not gonna expect them to like drop 20 frags a game and then not die in anchor rolls. Like that's just not how they play.
Yeah, and I really love Tarek. Like he's like, out of all like, he's probably one of the top, like him and Elise probably my favorite NA players ever. But I I don't know, I kind of hate seeing him in this team, because I think there's more you could get out of him. Or but I will say, to go on the positives, just after sort of railing on them for a little bit, the positive for Janko is that you can't make them worse, really. Like, they've
Yeah.
bombed out of a bunch of lands recently, and with the context of, yeah, you have 5 major winners. How many major trophies, like major rings, like a 1 2, like a lot.
8.
I don't want to say the number wrong, but I
Yeah,
was gonna
because
say like
3 of them
something
have
like
won
7 or
2,
8,
and then
bro.
Stu and Tarek have each won 1.
You got so many rings on this team, and you're not a contender. Like, that's what you're trying to get towards.
Like
So
another sports analogy
surely,
here. Like this is the 2004 Lakers team. Like there's so much talent on this team, and they're it's just built to fail.
I just think, like, they'll fail in the context of what they really want, but there's no way they don't improve from where they are now. There's just too many good players. Like, this is the kind of team where, like, you can fuck around and make it to like a quarterfinal. I still think they're going to have a ton of issues and be very inconsistent, but there's just too much fucking talent. But I mean, that being said, that probably means they're 1 or 2 moves away from having a really baller roster. It's just making sure you make those moves really count. I do look forward to potentially Janko putting forward, like, helping them integrate some sort of system that's kind of that fluid style that Carrigan's mastered. And I think that could be really good for this lineup, just because this seems like you've kind of made a mini phase lineup here with these sort of players.
Yeah, no, that's what they probably should do. Like that would be the way that they win like the most matches right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Before
Oh,
you look ahead to the future, see how you can improve and get back to title contention. Because I think right now Yanko has to prove that this team can be respectable again, because they're not respectable at all right now. Like they're kind of a joke.
no respect for them. But
Yeah, they're gonna have to earn my respect again. Like I don't care how many majors they fucking won. If they keep bombing out of lands, I'm not gonna give them any respect.
but I think the real concern here is that, so they're it's hard to say how much of Cold Zero's leaked ambitions to go to Team Liquid or leave this team or whatever are legit, but surely there's something going on there. And I think that's a real problem, because I think if they bomb out of this major, there's a good chance he leaves this. And people say, like, look, he's tied up in this big ass contract, but there's teams with money out there, like FaZe, like Liquid, who are willing to invest. And if anyone's worth like blowing a big release clause, it's Cold Zero. And I think that that's the ticking time bomb for this, because if you lose Cold Zero, like that's the probably the foundation of your team just out the fucking window, and you've lost your fucking superstar, and that's probably gonna it might improve your team in the sense that you'll kind of rally around a different sort of structure, and you get a bit of that
Wild card.
get a bit, yeah, or that honeymoon period afterwards. But in the long term, that's like the best case scenario. There's a chance that just fucking obliterates your team and you're garbage. But I think in the long term, almost any team in the world is better with Cold Zero than without him. Like,
Yeah, he's
I don't know.
just
I just keep thinking of, like, there's so many teams at this major who have issues that we're gonna end up with. Did you hear? Okay, you might have heard this story that's been debunked by haters, but allegedly after Cleveland Cavaliers won their only title, defeating the 73-win Golden State Warriors, there's allegedly this story where in the parking lot outside the arena, Draymond like speed dials this number on his phone and then picks it up to his ear, and the guy answers and he says, "Do it," and just hangs up. And that guy on the phone was like the Golden State GM, and he puts into motion signing Kevin Durant. So in my head, that Draymond Green is like either Niko or it's fucking Glaive or one of these guys. Like, someone just makes that like end that season finale moment and just snaps him up if they don't win the major.
I mean, obviously, like, it probably wouldn't be Glaive making that call. It'd probably be someone on like Team Liquid making it.
Yeah, that's true, but like that's what I want. This is what I want Cold Zero to do. Just be like, fuck this team. I'm just gonna join the best team who doesn't win the major. So
Well,
if
I mean,
Astralis
it
don't win the
can't be
major,
Astralis then
go.
because they're gonna win the major.
All right, fair play.
But yeah, like I definitely agree with that. Like if MIBR loses Cold Zero, they're basically just like make a play that gets your dick hard the team, because like that's all they have on the roster.
Yeah, I'm really concerned for this team, but I mean, the only way is up, boys. So
I mean, again, we keep saying this about MIBR, but like there's definitely worse. They can definitely do worse. There's no floor for this team.
listen, we're a positive show here. We
No,
only
no,
look
we're a
up.
free thinking podcast. We never said we were a positivity podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, Mr. West. I won't contradict you again, sir.
All right. I think that's about all we have to say about MIBR. Let's kind of switch to like the last like little bits of news that we have. Let's talk about the simple AMA that he did on Reddit. Like the problem is like this AMA is like 2.5 years too late. I wish that Simple did this when he was like on Team Liquid, fucking feuding with his teammates and shit. But at least we got one good story out of it.
Yeah, this was a fucking really odd AMA, because sometimes you feel like you're gonna get these really cool like illuminating interviews whenever, or like illuminating answers when people do these. As much as we shit on Reddit, you do get some really interesting ones from players over the years, but it doesn't seem like he wanted to do it. It just seems like the Navi PR guy made him do one for like press purposes, because there's like so many one-word answers, or like someone writes like a paragraph question, he answers with like 5 words. But the one thing we got, which wasn't even that beautifully articulated by him, it was just like really directly said, was someone asked him about how he like what happened with Team Liquid and Adren and that sort of thing. Uh, and Simple said that the problem was Adren didn't practice enough, and which he later clarified that he apparently meant individually. And Adren responded on stream rather pissed off, and I think he thought that it meant practice in general, not just individually. I think Simple was just finding a way to say Adren was shit. But he said that Adren said that Simple not only didn't practice enough, he skipped all the demo review and strategy sessions at that major to smoke with his teammates that he was leaving Team Liquid for after the major. Which the intended purpose here of Adren's move, I think, is to show that like it's like, hey, fuck this guy. He's way more lacking of teams mateship or whatever the fuck, teammates ship, something like that. But considering that like this guy absolutely carried them through this major and he was like an MVP candidate, it just made Simple look like a huge baller.
Yeah, like this is some all-time shit. Like this is some Allen Iverson practice rant shit. He's just like, practice. I ain't gotta practice. I go out there and I lay my life on the line for this game, and that's exactly what Simple did. Like he didn't practice. He just showed up in the server, banged everyone's heads off, and then went out and smoked some fucking ciggies with his boys.
Imagine like I'm trying to think of what a good example would be. It'd be like if like the Western Conference final between OKC and Golden State. If like after the games, like instead of watching tape, Kevin Durant was like hanging out with the Golden State players, like but then still going absolutely fucking ham in the matches. Because they're really, with what Simple did, there's really like two ways it can go. Like I think if you're bad, if you do this shit and then if you absolutely bunk off practice, fuck that shit, and you play bad, or even if you just play okay, you probably come off as just a huge wanker. But if you do that and then show up in the way that Simple did, you're just a legend. Like I can't even hate that. Like that's just too good of a storyline.
It's like the Rockstar LDLC guys just like showing up hungover as fuck and winning lands.
Yeah, that's like as much as like the person like in me who where you think of yourself as like a theoretical manager or coach, you would hate that shit. The narrative storytelling person in me says that's great. Like that's why I love that Rockstar DLC team. Like you're saying, man, like they would live legitimately. They were so bad in map 1 of big series because they were hungover as fuck, and then they would come back and 2-1 the series regularly. It's so unreasonable and so unprofessional, but like, what a story.
And listen, as Big J journos, we are completely unbiased, and we have to root for the storylines, not the teams.
That's true. Big J Journers.
That phrase is so good. I need to use it more. All right. Now a
Enough,
simple.
enough,
Yeah. Enough
enough
of the simple
simple.
story. VP added a player out of Poland called Snatchie to replace Snax leaving for Mouse Sports. I don't really have any thoughts on him. Like there was this one, like I watched VP play some not so great CS. I think it was in that LAN at China or something. I don't know if Snatchy was playing there or not. Like that's how little I kind of care about VP at this point.
It was kind of because they went to the LAN with Morals, that stand-in who just has been pretty shit as a stand-in, but I mean he's a warm body with hands, a mouse, and a keyboard, so I guess that's all you need to be in VP these days. But Snatchy, then they announced like Snatchy like halfway through the LAN as well. And it's my first reaction was kind of, I was just like bummed out because I'm kind of sad to see Snatchy's former team AGO take a big hit like this, because I think they were a really solid team with a really quality system. But since VP have like money coming out their fucking ears and they really need an upgrade, in conjunction with AGO failing to make the major, I think this was only a matter of time. Like Snatchy's definitely the standout player on that team. And I mean, like VP, it doesn't really even fucking matter what role he plays, because there's so many issues on VP. You just get any good Polish player and slap them in there, and it'll be a fucking upgrade.
Yeah, like if you
Like
just have if you're like a big team, like and you just have holes everywhere, you just get the best player available.
like I was saying before, like you can't, like MIBR, you can't get worse. Like this is really VP, you really cannot get worse. Like you can't, it can only be up from here. You can't fall any further. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like
But
we like this is like VP have really hit rock bottom here.
I
Like
mean, like,
they
sorry, go on.
no, not you.
I was gonna say, like, but you just look at this team now, and it's like Bialy's still in fantastic form. Like I don't know what the fuck Bialy's on, like,
The
but
gear.
he's just been on absolute, yeah. He's just been on a fucking tear for a while now. I quite like me, who is a role guy. Like he's very reasonable. Like just he knows his job and he'll do it. You've got Snatchie now, who's like a pretty interesting prospect, who's got a, like, I think he's got a quite high ceiling. I think he can do some really good things if they don't just fuck him out of all the support and positions he deserves. And then we also hearing that in a not too distant future, Neo is going to be on the way out for hopefully like a pretty decent replacement. I'm assuming that after this upcoming major, he's probably going to be out. Like honestly, VP might, I mean, they might well be on their way to not being shit.
Low tier 1, high tier 2. Here they come. Watch out.
Yeah, they might make it back to tier 3. Let's think about that first, all right? Before we talk about these other, maybe tier 3. All right, let's get back there first. Come on, boys. Because like here, okay, so here's how far VP have sunk. Is like whenever they win a series at a LAN against like fucking Tai Lu or something, on who are having a bad day, the commentators start hyping that it might be like that one LAN every 4 or 5 months where VP make a run where they go do okay and then bomb out in semis. They're like, oh, they might have a run but not win. Like that's what they're hyping with this team now. There's the stakes are so low. Like you can't fuck this team up more.
Yeah, this
This has
is
to be the last ditch before this organization just be like, no, we're fucking done, boys.
dead game. We're out of here.
Absolutely.
All right, the last roster move that we're going to talk about here is North finally settling on a lone player, I guess, but at least this lone player actually speaks their language. Instead of having Mixwell join this team, they finally settled on the Danish player Niko to replace the spot that Mertz left. Niko used to play in Heroic. I've actually got some legitimate questions about this move, mainly because like I haven't watched as much Heroic as you, because like you were big up in Yugi for like years before he joined Optic and finally got to a major. But like obviously like the op role in North desperately needed, and I don't know if Niko. I legitimately do not know if Niko can fill this. Like, do you have any information that would behoove to answer it? This question.
Yeah, that's the main problem, is he cannot. Like
Oh,
he's not
great.
he's just straight up not an opper.
Fuck.
Like I I want to say I've seen him pick it up from time to time. I haven't watched the recent Heroic because it just makes me sad. But I'm pretty sure he's not been opping in that team. However, I do actually like him. I kind of, the way I wanted to, I kind of look at it from the like the standard, like sort of three-step, the classic sort of three stages of a roster change analysis thing. It's like, did they need a change? Yeah, because like, though I like a lot of the roles and the ways this team works, I think they needed something else to try and take them to the next level. My initial problem is I don't think Mertz was the right guy to drop. Like I, or he wasn't obviously the right guy to drop, you know? Like I don't think he was a lost cause at all yet, and I would not be surprised to see him make a comeback in this Heroic team, because if we're looking at the interviews, the reason that the North players gave for why they cut him is that they struggle for consistency on CT sides, and they really wanted to be like, let's change shit until we figure out what's causing this inconsistency. And I think there is a really legitimate argument, and that kind of makes some sense to say that mertz is a big part of that, because for all the upsides to having mertz, the downside I think is that you can't always count on him in those big situations when he's playing like a really pivotal spot on the CT side, that he's just gonna hit those shots that are like there's like, there's sort of like 3-4 out of 10 shots that are really pretty straightforward, but you just have to fucking nail them. Whereas like you might do some insane shit, sometimes you just need a guy who's gonna get those layups.
So Mertz good at getting difficult shots, but not easy ones.
Yeah, though I will say that I think he was kind of like, all those criticisms, I think he was coming around on them. I thought he'd kind of turned over a new leaf and he was starting. I think the last lane he had wasn't great, but he probably knew he was getting kicked at that point. So he probably wasn't in a great state of mind, and the team probably weren't involving him as much. But I think he was really starting to turn it over and get going again, like, which makes me think that maybe there's more to it than just this consistency thing, and maybe they weren't really getting along with him or that sort of thing. But I don't know. I still think he's a good player. Like I really hope this isn't the last we've seen of him.
So going back to that, you mentioned a player that you said that Mertz wouldn't be the first player that you kick. I'm just wondering who would be the first player that you kick.
Man, that's a really hard thing on this team. Like, cause all right, so at this point, I'm just in for a penny, in for like $1 million, because on MSL, like I just can't, I just can't quit you, MSL.
Like
I just
honestly, I
can't.
don't like I would agree. Like I don't think you can kick MSL. Like as much shit as he gets, like who are you gonna get? Like
You're gonna
who's
add
the in-game leader that you're
Snappy.
gonna get?
Like Snappy hasn't done anything with Optic yet, and they've been together for a while. Like I'd rather MSL, who, let's just say, like, he's been fantastic on T sides recently. It's just his overall, like, fucking overall has been lacking because their CT sides are very often terrible. But because that's where it's weird to me, because I really like, you can't kick Valda, obviously. I still like Kirby. I still like fucking AZ.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Are you just gonna say that you should kick AZ even though you declared him unwashed a couple podcasts ago?
See, that's my problem, is there's almost not a direct roster move you can make with this team. Like because my one problem is, like, people talk about this team having a lot of firepower, or like having enough firepower, but I think a lot of that's on name value, because you look at Valder and yeah, he's on a fucking tear, he's unbelievable. Then you see like AZ was sick in a long time ago. Kirby was fucking insane in 2017, but they're not those players anymore. Like I said, I've been saying for a while that, like, Kirby isn't a star player anymore. Kirby's like a very good entry aggressive player. Like he's an absolute fucking soldier on your team. Like I just don't think he's a star anymore. And that's the issue, is I think you need to consolidate this team and be like, who are my star three that I'm gonna get? And obviously that can include whoever you bring in. And then I think you drop one of the guys who are left out. And like I said, I liked AZ in this team now, and I think he's filling some important roles. But honestly, I think you have to take a really fucking hard look at this team and be like, do I kick AZ or do I kick Kirby? And I think you probably end up kicking AZ, just because I feel like you can't. I don't know, that guy. Like I'm worried that he's just gonna go back to being shit again. Like I just, as much as I like the role he's found now, it's, yeah, I don't know.
It's
This
not
team's really
enough.
hard to fix, man. Like, cause there's
It's
not like
not
an
enough
obvious
to.
addition either.
It's just not enough to warrant like continuing to not have enough firepower is what you're saying.
Yeah, like he had to make a move, but they're kind of in a hard place, because obviously you can't fucking get anyone on Astralis. Like they do not want to come anywhere near you. Uh, like I don't even think anyone on Astralis has spoken to MSL in years. But but no. you can't get anyone on Optic because you've like fucking pissed off almost every player on that team. Like I don't. Maybe you could somehow do an insane coup and get Yugi. Like that would be a fantastic play for them, which I wouldn't mind because I feel like North with Yugi would be far better than Optic with Mertz. Uh, and also a bunch of people. It's I don't think it's been reported, but a bunch of people have implied or said that they believe that they tried to get some players from Fragsters. Like they definitely made an offer for Staven or Stown, I think is how you say something shit like that, and maybe Refresh as well. But those guys said no for whatever reason. Like Staven maybe because he's 16 and he's still got like finished school and that sort of shit. Still be a kid and all that shit. But I think those would be the two, like they're like Refresh and Staven would be the two players that you'd gamble on outside of Niko. And since they're not available and you can't get any one of those other teams, you probably Niko is your best option, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like I again this probably won't fix North. Like I don't know. I don't
I
know if
think
like
it might.
as a tear drips down your eye. I don't know if anything will.
I almost like I kind of this is why I wanted to stick with Mertz because I feel like North keep switching AWPers and they keep reigniting the issue they had. So the problem with Cajun is you could count him to hit to hit those easy shots, but he wasn't really a main AWPer. He was more like a secondary AWPer who was playing that main AWP role, and that's not really for him. Mertz was too inconsistent. Mixwell's fucking Mixwell. And then now you don't really have like who's gonna AWP? Like maybe honestly they might be making AZ the AWP because he's been
Yeah,
picking it up and he's actually been pretty fucking good with it,
honestly,
like
like
as a secondary
they
guy.
might
But
just pull a
like
Pimp with him, where Pimp was like a long time rifler, and they're just like, hey Pimp, switch to an op, and he's like, okay, and then out of the scene. Like this might be how they
fuck
kick
it,
AZ from
boys.
the scene.
Fuck it, boys. North to make quarterfinals with AZ as their best player on the AWP at the major. Fuck it, I'm all in. I don't
I'm
care anymore.
this is the take hill that I'm gonna die on.
But I guess my other problem with this move is that it feels, though it's like obviously quite different roles, it feels like another Mertz in the sense that they've picked up a young up and coming player who has, like, you can see that the ceiling is there and there's a potential there, but he's inconsistent and he hasn't quite bloomed yet, and you're picking him up into North and you're seeing what you can get out of him. And yeah, this guy could be the missing fucking piece, but he also could just keep your team in this like same like fucking dead end that they've been in for a while, like where it looks like they're about to, at least to me, like to a lot of people it doesn't, to me it looks like they're about to really come on to a new level and then they just fucking don't. But on the other hand, like MSO has a pretty fucking good track record of dealing with young players. Like you'll forget that he's had and brought through a lot of like very very talented guys.
Most of which are on
uh,
Astralis currently.
but I don't know, in the end of it I think Heroic getting Mertz, Niko going to North, like I think both teams are pretty happy. Like I think North were able to get rid of a guy they didn't want, get a guy that they did want. Heroic were able to for once get a pretty exciting guy in exchange for the player that they were losing, because it seems like everyone's just fleecing Heroic for every player that's worth anything on that team.
Yeah, like it's just if you're the organization, you're happy. You probably got a decent buyout for him, and you're getting
Yeah,
a promising piece.
yeah, it's definitely for Heroic's level. I think Mertz is great. It's just like, yeah, I think Mertz will go in. He might well be the best player on that fucking Heroic team, honestly.
It'll be better than Freiburg.
Yeah,
Ugh.
we'll see them soon. Because it's like, I mean, who is gonna fucking frag? I guess I actually don't mind Asilian, to be honest. He's not the worst. Like he's a pretty okay game leader. They got Esatag, Freiburg, Modi. Like Esatag's actually been pretty fucking decent for Heroic, but Modi and Freiburg, man, like Nah. Signed off on some pretty fucking insane Danish shit, but not that either of them are Danish, but it's a Danish team. This ain't it.
I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. No.
But I don't know. Hopefully they both get better. That's about all I have to say on these teams.
All right, that's it for the news. Let's switch to some segments. What do you have for nuts and pugs this time around?
I did have a quick verbal meme. It's one of those classic who would wins. So I'll propose who would win a Chinese super team with a 1-0 upper bracket advantage heading into a best of 5, or Korean veterans with 3 30-year-old players. If you guessed the Korean veterans, you would be right, because Flash Gaming managed to fucking throw a best of 5 with a 1-0 lead. Shout outs to, what was that, IEM Chicago qualifiers.
Ugh, yuck. I could never watch IEM Chicago qualifiers. Who knows? Maybe we might get to see that Korean team play in person.
Yeah, dude, people, they have one of those players that, like, every time he comes on, like Anders and a bunch of the other guys just start wanking off about him because he was sick in 1.6. They got that solo. It was actually pretty fucking horrible. He's had like 37 kills in 3 maps.
Oh, so he's Korean Markelov. Got it.
Yeah, he really is, man.
Hold up. Did that Korean team just 3-0 Flash Gaming?
Yeah,
Oh no.
they didn't. They had to win 2 fucking maps out of 5, and they won 0 maps, or I guess 2 out of 4. They won 0 out of 4.
Oof. That's a hard oof.
Yeah, that's a really terrible way to go. Actually, I just want to see a look at the bracket. Like, who did they even? I don't know. I don't know. Hashtag not my super team.
By the way, when we say Chinese super team, like they're probably like tier 2 in NA.
Yeah, that's true.
So like let's not get too crazy here.
They just got beaten by by Asia's like old guys club. That's the context, I guess.
All right. This time it's my turn for please watch the podcast. So, um, probably I'd say my first love in sports was college football. College
Cool.
football, the product is not as good as the NFL. Like the players aren't as good. The coaching isn't as good for the most part. The schemes, there's a wider variety of schemes, but they're not as polished. Like there's not as much going on in them as you would see at the NFL level. But one of the things that keeps me coming back is that like the fans in college football are so fucking bananas. Like there's much to say about how crazy like English football fans are, and like college football is the closest American sports will ever get to like that just rampant hooliganism, where people just like ride or die by the schools that they like went to, or in the case of the South, grew up around. And speaking of the South, there's nowhere that college football is bigger than the South. Another thing that I have to mention about college football is that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? The coaches, the
Mhm.
head coaches of each football program of each public university are generally the highest paid employee in the state. Like there's just billions of dollars floating around, and the players get legally zero of it. And so in order to convince like really good players to come to your school, boosters, people who donate to the program, will also pay the players, like through backdoor channels. Like the NCAA pretends it doesn't happen. They claim to be this bastion of amateurism, but it's complete and total bullshit, and everyone knows it. So back in the 80s, there was this really 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 exciting running back prospect by the name of Eric Dickerson, Eric Dickerson would go on to become one of the best running backs in the NFL in NFL history. He set the single season rushing record, all that jazz. But before he went to the NFL, he went to college. And obviously, and during this recruiting process, it was really hyped. Like everyone in Texas wanted Eric Dickerson for obvious reasons. And so at that time, those Texas bagmen, they were slinging lots of dough around, to say the least. And Eric Dickerson managed to get Texas A&M, a university in Texas, to give him a Continental Trans Am. It's a really nice car for the time. Really expensive. I think it was like gold or some obscene color. No, it was like bright yellow. And they called it the Trans A&M. However, Eric Dickerson didn't go to Texas A&M. He went to Southern Methodist University. So basically what ended up happening is he got a car at Texas A&M and then got another bag from SMU to go there. So this is one of the all-time finesse jobs in college football recruiting. Like, and after that, he went on to make a ton of fucking money in the NFL, and like, he doesn't have brain damage because he's a really articulate dude. So really, Eric Dickerson, one of the all-time greats, all-time bag securer, all-time player, just big fan.
That is a fantastic move, because that's actually fucking genius, because they're not meant to be giving him shit, so it can't be.
Yeah, they can't take the car back. What are they gonna do? Reveal that they've been cheating? Heavens no.
They just have to write it off as a loss and be like, we got.
Like, there's a really good 30 for 30 on SMU, on the SMU football program, called the Pony Excess, because the running back tandem that Eric Dickerson had with a white guy called Craig James, who was never even half the player, but it's college football, so he's still really good. Like they called that running back tandem the Pony Express, and the title of the 30 for 30 documentary is the Pony Excess, because like just the obscene amounts of money that SMU boosters would spend on that football team eventually led to that football team getting banned, like from being able to like do anything. Like the NCAA gave that football program the death penalty for a year. Like they couldn't practice, they couldn't recruit anyone. They lost all their funding for the program. And like SMU still probably hasn't recovered, because like they're not a D1, they're not a Division 1 school anymore. Like or at least they're not a Power 5 school anymore.
Damn, fuck the NCAA.
Oh yeah, the NCAA is awful.
Oh my god, I saw a while ago there was some Reddit thread where they were talking about like how pointless youth academies are, and someone was like legitimately saying like in the future, like, well, the NCAA will get into esports or something. I'm like,
Oh
please
fuck
no,
God,
no.
dude,
Imagine all these guys like fucking not making any money until they're like 22 or some shit. Like,
that's off. That's the worst thing you could do. Like the NCAA has been legitimately compared to slavery. Like that's not something you want to associate with.
yeah, that's usually not a good look when when your association is compared to literal slavery.
Like I always say that like the NCAA is the second biggest the second biggest scumbags in sports. Like nothing's gonna top FIFA, but like the NCAA is up there.
Yeah, because the NCAA doesn't have like straight up blood on their hands on a regular basis like FIFA does, allegedly.
Yeah, no, allegedly. There's definitely no proof that Qatar bribed the fuck out of FIFA.
Listen, the blood could have been for any reason. They could have been doing some Shakespeare.
My favorite part about the fucking Qatar World Cup is that like FIFA have fucked up so bad that they had like Qatar's gonna be too hot, literally too hot in the summer to play. So they're moving they're moving the World Cup back to like when all the leagues are playing. After for like decades, the leagues have shifted their schedule around the World Cup. So
Because
FIFA's just saying we fucked up so bad, we're gonna fuck over everyone.
it's apparently going to, if it goes along as it is, there will be like 4 years of football will be like ultimately changed. Like 4 seasons worth of football will have to be moved like a significant amount to fit the World Cup in. But the funniest part is that the reason why they're putting it in the winter in Qatar, or the reason why they've moved it this late, is because when they did the bid for it, Qatar said, like, they're like, it's very hot in Qatar. How are you going to deal with that? And they're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to invent new technologies to make the warm cold. And then FIFA were like, oh, okay, sound, and gave them the World Cup. And then they're like, oh, how's that going? And they're like, the thing about that is we have done a lie. Like, we've done a lie on that one, boys. Like, let us be the first to say our bad. we've told a little white lie, but don't you worry, like, no one will notice when they're playing in like 40 something degrees Celsius fucking heat. When like fucking, like, dude, Ronaldo's gonna, like, how old's Ronaldo gonna, he's gonna be like 37. Like, Ronaldo might die. Like
Qatari oil
fucking,
barons killed one of the greatest players of all time.
listen, dude, like, nearly middle-aged men aren't meant to be running for 2 hours in fucking blistering heat.
Nobody's supposed to be running for 2 hours in blistering heat.
Like,
Like,
it's like, we joke, but it is legitimately dangerous for people to be like playing in those conditions. It's not. It's genuinely not safe. It's
thousands of
so fucking
thousands of
ridiculous.
the construction workers building these fucking stadiums, these monuments to just absolute like filth and corruption, have died. So the slave labor that Qatar like shipped over from like India and Pakistan is just like dying to build these monuments to oil barons. And and they expect these fucking world-class athletes to not die in the middle of the summer heat. It's absolutely insane.
And we keep getting these news stories that every every so often, like, that come out from like FIFA or like Sepp Blatter, who's like the former head, and that sort of thing, where they'll be like, they'll like be in an interview or like a press conference. They'll be like, now guys, we do have to tell you, there was there was some collusion on this decision to award the World Cup to Qatar, and when we did this, it was because the Qatar had offered us this and this. And I was like, we fucking know, like, we know you did. Like, stop acting like you're blowing our minds, dude. Like, it's so fucking, it's so unreal that this is like, it's and I mean, to some degree, it's beyond that fucking point. It's beyond like such a fucking unreasonable point where it's so known that they just sell the World Cup to whoever bribes them, that the fucking heads of FIFA will come out and admit that they sold like all of the last like four or however many World Cups.
Yeah, because they've all been in shit locations.
It's like, it's, oh, it's so unreasonable. I'm just a bit annoyed that, because Australia were apparently one of the leading ones for the 2022 World Cup. Like, why didn't we pay them? Or there was some, because there were, oh, I remember it was ages ago where people, this was like around when Qatar got it, and some report came out where like people were like saying that like Australia, it's so unreal, they tried to bribe FIFA with these things. And then the Australian officials just came out like, yeah, like everyone was doing it. What like, what are we meant to do? Not try to get the World Cup? It's
Fuck off.
literally impossible to do it without bribing them.
It's like the fucking Tour de France. Like everyone knows they're doping. Like if you want to win the Tour de France, you have to blood dope to fucking hell. It's just the way it
Yeah.
is.
And the roundabout point that we're getting to is that Faceit bribed Gabe, because clearly they do not know how to run a fucking major.
Of course, it all has to circle back.
Full circle, boys. Let's go.
Do we want to talk about that a little bit? Because we didn't talk about that at all.
Oh yeah, we probably should.
Yeah, all right. End of tangent. Bonus chapter. Face
Epilogue.
it have fucked it all up.
Yeah, no, they've it's been really odd. It's been really kind of, I didn't expect them to have these issues because they're a company who's been around for a while, and though they've been telegraphing a lot of their fuck shit, like having like a guy who just goes and responds to everyone on Reddit for every problem because that's all the community wants, is like you can legitimately do fucking anything to this fucking community, i.e. ESCA Bitcoin mining and bricking a bunch of people's computers and reading your fucking Steam messages. But as long as you come out and just like apologize on Reddit, people will be like, ah, I've had some pretty good pugs, boys. Like it's just so unreasonable. Like I hate the way that this fucking community responds to this bullshit. But I don't know. I've just been shocked because I just feel like so many of the mistakes they made were ones with very easy mitigate ways to mitigate them. Like maybe you can't make it completely right, but you can fucking mitigate them. Like the decision to change the rules without telling everyone and that whole bullshit where the rule change they did was it used to be, and this was a big deal, that if you played with in any of the major qualifying stuff, I think
Like
so.
the
If you've played at the
minor.
minor, if a player's played at the minor and he doesn't make it through, he cannot play at the major that it leads up to. And they changed that rule. But and this is a huge deal. Like so many teams have had issues with not having their players turn up for it. Not being able to play with players at the next major because of this shit. And it's like it's genuinely changed the course of history because teams either did or didn't make a roster move based on this.
Yeah, like
But they
that's the fucked
sorry, on.
thing. Yeah, that's the fucked thing. Like so many teams have gotten fucked out of this before, and like it's just been so ingrained in teams' minds. Like, yeah, we're just gonna have to like grit this out. We can't make changes. Even like some of those changes probably would have made you better.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing Faceit did is, so apparently it was okay. So first rulebook, this is in there. Second rulebook comes out, and not only do they not tell and this is not available to the public initially, I don't believe, but they gave this out to like the teams and all that stuff, and they okay, so they took the rule out, but they didn't tell anyone that they took the rule out. They didn't tell anyone there was a new rule book. They just posted a new one in apparently the Discord. They have a bunch of people and didn't say it was a new rule book, whatever. So they didn't say that you can now play with a player who's from the minor. They just took the rule out, and when people are like, what the fuck, Faceit, they're like, yeah, but we didn't say that you couldn't do that. Like it's like, what?
It's been in
No.
the rules.
Not to mention, apparently, a bunch of and they said, no, the rules only tell you the stuff that you can't do. So by taking it out, we're saying that you can do that. And it's like, but a bunch of the rules tell you stuff that you can do, apparently, in the rule book. So that they'd contradict themselves directly. And this is on top of a similar situation where they literally typoed and fucked up the format for the NA minor. So they had a Swiss system where they didn't have enough teams to complete it, so a bunch of teams who all finished like 3-2 went through on map difference, which is fucking ridiculous. But on top of that, they didn't properly explain it in the rulebook because they said there was more slots than there were going to be, and then they changed that rule afterwards and did this. I believe they did the same thing, right? Where they just like took it out. Oh, this was the one where they posted they just posted the new rule book with that typo apparently changed, but then just didn't actually tell the fucking teams. They just posted it in the Discord and said like, oh, you should have checked or whatever. When like it just seems obvious that you should notify people, right? Like,
I just, oh man, like this has
and
just
on
been
top of that, map difference and then round difference as a differentiator between teams who went 3-2 is fucking horrific because, first of all, this is a Swiss system. So you're playing very different levels of teams potentially, and you're playing on different maps and your map pool relating to another team's map pool is going to affect your map difference and your round difference. Also, the fucking knife round potentially that you do. Actually, I'm not sure if they had knife rounds, but whatever. Like, so if you say you play like fucking Nuke, if you start on Nuke's the famous one, but like you start on the CT side, you can rack up 12 rounds or like something crazy, win the pistol round and close it out like 16-6, 16-5. Or maybe you play them, they get 10 CT rounds. You have you claw back those 5 T rounds. You have fantastic CT side, fucking win every CT round. You still only win 16-10. It's like it's really just not a good way to fucking to split teams. And it wasn't just splitting teams in terms of like some sort of ranking system. It was literally you do or don't get to go to the major.
Yeah, like on top of just like awful rules, like going back on several of your rules is like a cardinal sin on tournament organizers. Like you can't fucking do that. You set your rules for a reason so that teams would know what they were and they would plan accordingly. You can't just like flip shit around on them. This really reminds me of like Riot changing rules to like fuck over players and teams to like ban them from the league or like get them for what was it like what is it like collusion or tampering or some shit.
Mhm.
Like this should be a really bad look for Faceit, but like we all know that like DDK and James are just gonna get there, say a bunch of weird bullshit, and the community's gonna be like, oh, they're so quirky. I love Faceit.
Yeah, it's man, I'm just disappointed because like I thought we were. It sounds stupid, but like I thought we were past this.
This is esports, man. We're never past this.
Because I like this shit makes me feel bad for ESL because like ESL literally do anything and the entire community just starts like reeing out of control. But like if Faceit does something, they're just like, let's hear him out, boys. Faceit Mikey might hop onto his Reddit account any minute now to explain this away.
Ugh, man, I'm just really tired. I'm fed up. That's all I gotta say.
I don't know. I was pretty happy to see them get a major because they're a company who've supported this game for the long term, you know. But
I don't think they'll be getting
the
one in
way
the future.
they're acting, it doesn't feel right. You know, like right now, like you just don't expect this shit from a fucking from a TO like this.
Yeah, I honestly don't think they'll get one again. And like after like this like shit, I wouldn't hate it.
Because I don't think Valve would be. Yeah, I think like Valve is the kind of organization where they will just decide not to give you a major for shit. I think they probably this might be their last major for a long time at this rate. Because look at how fucking good E League have done there. Like look how fantastic those E League majors were done, and they weren't without like little bumps and like that along the way, right? But they're still really fucking well executed, and they didn't have stupid shit like this. Like just they didn't have just pure incompetence.
Yeah. Actually, I lost my train of thought for a sec, but I remembered what I was going to talk about. Like the way the community like treats Faceit is it's kind of in a way like how the community will like treat Mike Pence if Donald Trump ever gets impeached. Like he's going to do the same like heinous shit, but he's not going to be like this crazy fucking non politician like Trump is very like vulgar, out there, crude, in your face, and like that's really what like the mainstream media doesn't like about Donald Trump, because Mike Pence is going to do the same shit that Donald Trump does, but he's going to get a hard pass for it because like he's like on the surface he's a respectable politician, and that's like all people want out of the president. Like they don't care what he does, they just want him to like go in a suit, say all the right things, and then just like drone strike everyone. That's all they give a shit about.
Because there's this saying in English football. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's something along the lines of like, if you write stories about Manchester United, you'll never go hungry. It's kind of like if you write stories about Trump, you'll never go hungry because people will fucking read them. Whereas like, yeah, you say the exact same shit about these other guys, like no one cares because they wanna hate on this individual or this thing. They don't care what the fucking reason is or as long as this person did it.
Yeah, like I just feel like that's how that's how they treat Faceit. Like because Faceit has like a like somewhat of a community presence and like they'll explain shit sometimes. It's like, oh, they're respectable. I don't care what they do. Like at least they explain why they're fucking me in the ass.
Yeah, like, because it's only now, and honestly, I'll get to it in a second, but it's only now that people have started going like in big way from ESCA to Faceit, and they're finally just being like, I'm starting to think this ESCA company, they made some wrong turns along this path, And it's like, really, really, did they? But you know why they're fucking going across to Faceit? It's honestly because they fucking go on like Twitch and see these fucking streams of all these pros playing Faceit. So they're just like, oh, I should play Faceit too because that make me good.
It's not that it's like a superior service to ESCA. It's that it's that the pros are playing it. Like they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I honestly think that's like a really insanely huge driver. And I will say it is a better service to ESCA, and people should have been doing this years ago. But like, I think it's legitimately people just see there like it is no longer where the pros play.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. ESCA is gonna have to find a new slogan.
ESCA is gonna have to find a new fucking community to abuse soon.
That's true. After
Overwatch fans, prepare yourselves.
after LP Kane got that yacht, it was all downhill from here, baby. Dude, honestly, I think that the only way that ESCA comes back in my mind is if they bring LP Kane back. Like just so we can just shit on people in forums. That's all I ever wanted.
They bring him back in a head-on offensive to take on. He just starts going at Faceit Mikey directly in comment sections.
Oh man, the greatest like third party Counter-Strike server beef ever. Faceit
And
Mikey
as
versus LP Kane this week in the Caesar's Palace Coliseum.
and as we've learned, all of these online beefs should end with like a boxing match.
Yeah, just like Jake and Logan Paul fighting with
Yeah.
whoever the fuck they're fighting. All right, I think that's gonna do it for us. Don't if you want to find out what we have to think about Monster Hunter, you can follow me at Jackalope322 on Twitter and Tom at Tom Sato on Twitter.